questions, anyone? I do have one. So if we look on, I think on your list, you have some things on Highway 5, I believe. Is that correct?
Yes, those various seam and crack filling repairs. We're noticing on Highway 5 that we have some cracks and seams that are getting a bit wide, and we want to touch them up with a bit more of a permanent fix than the cold mix we currently use, or the cold mix that we currently use may not be the best approach. So this company does it for Watrous, does it for a lot of other communities in similar sizes, where essentially seal highway cracks and do that kind of work. So that is about $15,000 worth of the total that would be occurring.
Okay. So are these in the areas where you're going to be applying for the Urban Highway Connector program then as well, or?
Yes, these are going to be a temporary fix. These
okay.
are really going to be a sand chip emulsion mix going in. They won't be
okay.
A permanent as permanent repair as a mill and pave or when we put down actual asphalt. This will be a chip product that'll extend it and just keep water out of those seams, so we don't have continuous more breaking out of them.
So I did have a look at 14th Street over the weekend. There was a couple sections that looked like it was failing underneath. Was that because of inappropriate asphalt patching before the surface went on, or what was the story there?
So 14th Street actually has no asphalt on it at all.
Okay.
That chip seal was a double chip seal put directly on road base.
Okay.
So there could be imperfections in the road base itself. That is always possible. The nice thing with chip seal is that we can touch those up. We can we can do a simple reapply or a spot repair to seal those back up again. In addition, the contractor noted that with regards to 14th Street, we're actually going to get the radiuses finished up this time, because of course the radiuses weren't originally a part of the scope, I guess, of the original project. So he's got to get the radiuses fixed up at the intersection of 14th Street and 4th Avenue there.
Okay.
For the curves. Yeah.
So that was 14th Street would be similar to what you want to do on 1st Avenue then, in that section where you're doing the repairs yourself underneath?
That is correct.
Okay, that would be perfectly fine. I was wondering how that would turn out, but you've answered my question there. And that's Stebbings Crescent thin asphalt overlay. Is that something we've done recently, or is this something new?
This is something a bit newer. So typically when we do a mill and pave, it's a thicker structure. There's a lot of cities trending to go with thin overlays, just because of cost effectiveness and such. There's very minimal milling that occurs, but there may be some repairs, and then a thin layer of asphalt goes over top. So with this, you need to have a fairly solid structure under it, which we're content with that street to have a solid structure. It hasn't really been moving. It appears to be something that we can get many years of life out of. Okay. And at the same time, we don't anticipate to do many or minimal utility excavations in that area for quite a long time.
Okay, sounds good. So unless there's other further questions, I'll look for a motion to proceed with this chip seal tender as presented.
I have another question.
Okay.
So Peter, you mentioned that there's this is going to buy you time until you can do the water main work. So what is that time frame? Like what's the expected life of this product?
So on a residential street, it should get between 5 and 10 years of life on it. Again, if we need to do another coating, we can do another coating. That's the beauty of the flexibility of this product, is that it's literally just an emulsion topped with chip seal. You'll see it on a lot of highways, especially Highway 20. It's not asphalt. Like I'm going to be very clear on that. It's a rougher surface than asphalt, but we obviously have challenges with ensuring that all of our roadway surfaces are going to be paved within a reasonable time frame, and water main replacements. So if we need to spot patch, we can.
So is sweeping part of that, I guess, that tender? Or
Good question.
Because you mentioned Highway 20, and it's absolutely brutal on windshields. So because there's a lot of the chip that's still laying around, so, and I know it can happen in town as well.
So part of this quotation, it did note that the city would be responsible for sweeping off the excess. So of course we have the street sweepers, and also it supports that, or it's because it is low speed roadways, we shouldn't have issues with chipped windshields or anything like that. But it is going to be the city staff responsibility to clean off the excess.
Just on that, Peter, a final quick question. If we're sweeping with the street sweeper, do we remove that material off then, or is it kept in the hopper, and do we have a use for that afterwards?
We may have a use for it, but there shouldn't be too much left over. Once they put the oil coat down and then the chips, and then it gets a rubber tire packer on top of it, and then it gets the first sweeping, and then you rely on the tires of the vehicles to keep on working it in and to massage it in essentially to get that sealed surface. And then we go back and do second street sweeping after that.
Okay, thank you.
I should also mention, if I'm not mistaken, Bruno does a lot of chip seal in their municipality. So it'd be similar to that if you're ever touring the area.
Okay, thank you. So any further questions, or we'll call the question and get a motion here, please? I can't see your light, so if you put your hand up, Councillor Nordic, I think, and Councillor Jorgensen, is that correct? Okay.
Yes.
Any further discussion? If not, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Okay, moving right along. We will go to again to Peter on the Urban Highway Connector Program. You have some applications that you've submitted, so you can bring us up to speed on those, please.
Yes, so the applications were required by, I guess it was the middle of July. Daniel and Joe here took care of sending that in while I was on vacation, so I appreciate that. This particular project is, of course, the Urban Highway Connector Program is the program that the city is in cooperation with to maintain the highways through the city. So we have a maintenance contract with them, and then we have a capital agreement with them when we need to do some major work. So the new program that's coming out will be a 70-30 split regardless of the highways that go through Humboldt here. In order to get us in the queue, essentially, we're not necessarily anticipating it to occur next year, but in order to get us in the queue and so they can forecast their budgeting properly, we made application for Highway 20, which will be priority number 1 because it's very rough between 2nd Avenue and 1st Avenue South. And then the second application, which we don't actually anticipate for a couple of years, is to do mill and paves along Highway 5. There are some sections that are starting to give way, or the microsurface that was originally on there is starting to peel off. So with the 70-30 split, it would be advantageous for us to proceed in that form if the opportunity ever arose that they had the funds to do so. It should be mentioned that just acknowledgement of the Urban Highway Connector Program is that it is short funds. It typically is from year to year. So the likelihood is relatively low, but it puts us in the queue for when we hopefully will be able to get this funds to resurface it at some point. So particularly with Highway 20 South, which is the first priority project, that one actually includes a base reconstruction because there are some significant issues with the base structure on that highway. Daniel went through the Ministry of Highways standards, and we did some core samples several years ago, or last year and the year before, which indicated that it needs a beefier structure in order to handle heavy truck traffic, especially in an urban situation. So the design is for a good structure underneath 4 inches of asphalt. So I think it's 4 inches if I'm not mistaken. But either way, it's going to adequately support the traffic that's expected in the short term and long term for that roadway. As for Highway 5, the structure is pretty good. The suggestion that was passed on to the Urban Highway Connector program was to mill off some of the old surface and then beef up the structure by putting just a thicker layer of asphalt on it, just to give it a bit more structure as truck traffic and general traffic throughout the city increase. So that is what is being proposed. I guess I should mention, for Highway 5, it's anticipated that it would be under our cost to replace any type of manhole lids and get them nicely leveled. Of course, when you drive along Highway 5, it's not exactly the smoothest ride. So the intention would be to get new standard manhole lids on those and put them to grade properly. And then also repave a lot of those aprons that are going onto the side streets, because those are getting into tough shape as well. So that is the intention.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Do we have any questions from council? I'm not seeing any hands. I just had a couple quick comments. Would it be prudent to look at, I know there's in your plan, in the list of where you're gonna go, you've cut out a couple of the intersections, namely between 7th and 9th Street. And I believe the other one was 16th and 17th, if my memory serves me correctly. Would it, especially if this is put off a couple of years, would it maybe make sense to just go right straight through those intersections as well, considering they are fairly main intersections, or is there a reason why you cut them out?
The only rationale is because we have paved those within the last, well, couple of years at Highway 5 and 20. And then at between 16th and 17th Street, that was probably about 5 or 6 years ago. So it's relatively new, but you are right. Depending on when this approval may occur, we will have to likely modify it anyway. So if it is a decade away, yes, we'll have to definitely consider those intersections to be on there.
Because I know it is the main street going through town, and it's just, in my mind, if we're doing 90% of it, we should maybe look at doing the rest at some point, I guess, just to give a nice transition through the city. So
that is a good idea. We can modify this into the future years if need be. This approval is more so for what we've already applied for. Okay. So in potentially in 2021, if we want to modify that, that is something we can consider and then bring forward to council again.
Okay, well, thank you for everyone who put the work into this. I know these two roads are very well traveled in our community, and I like the fact that we're putting some resources into some of these through, especially when we can use provincial money to cover 70% of it. So if we can take advantage of this, it would be nice to see it take place as soon as possible. And for the community, I think it would be something that's very well received, because they are very well traveled roads throughout the city. So, okay, so we need a motion to proceed with this recommendation from the group. So, okay, I've got Councillor Behill and Councillor Jorgensen. Any further discussion on this one? If nothing, okay, all in favor, please. Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Okay, just give me a second. I gotta. Okay, we have the Public Accounts Director of Corporate Services. We need to approve the 2019 public accounts, and that's on page 7 of your agenda. So I will turn the floor over to the Director of Corporate Services to lead us through that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Mitch. Each annually, we need to report to the public the public accounts, which include companies and individuals that were paid more than $50,000, grants given to organizations of $50,000 or more, employees with remunerations of $50,000 or more, the total amount of remuneration for each member of council, so that they can be included with the financial statements and open to the public. So I'm asking for a recommendation. My recommendation is that these be adopted as presented.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any comments or questions on anything there? I don't think I see any hands. I just need to point one thing out. I noticed under, hang on here. Under your businesses that we've contributed to, I don't see Brockman Enterprises on that. Was that, were they not over 50,000, or was that just an oversight?
I will look into that and make sure they're included, but I'm sure that they were. They should be. I'll reanalyze that before they're presented.
I didn't see them on the list, but maybe I didn't. Maybe I just overpassed them.
I'm not seeing them either.
Okay. So if we approve this now, we would just make that amendment then. Okay. So whoever makes that motion, I'm assuming, is that, am I correct there? Were they missed?
Yeah, Mayor Minch, I believe
Yeah.
you're correct. They're not listed there. And if you could have whoever makes the motion to adopt them with any necessary amendments for
Okay.
as necessary.
Okay, that sounds good. So I'm looking for the motion then to adopt this.
I had actually thought of the same thing and didn't know if it was appropriate to ask.
Okay, so Councillor Wyland, are you making the motion then?
Yes.
Okay, and with the amendment, and Councillor Nordic, I see as well for a second.
Second it.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion on this? Just a comment, I think this is important that we have this transparently out to the public, so you know, they can look up who we're doing business with as a city, but also what the remuneration is for council and the mayor as well, and for any staff that's above the $50,000 range. So I think that's important to make sure that that's out there for the public to scrutinize and question if need be. So thank you for all those that got this list together for us today. So all in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Okay, and I believe we have one item left, and that would be for the Leisure Services Director report, and that's on the tender for the high efficiency boiler. This is part of the MEEP funding that we dedicated to replace those boilers at the Uniplex. So I think this is a good move to do this. It's going to give us some energy efficiency that we're going to be able to take advantage of over the next number of years at that facility. I think those are the original boilers that are still 40 years old in there.
As far as I can tell, yeah.
Okay, good. So I'll turn the floor over to Mike Ulrich to lead us through this tender, please.
Thank you. So my report is before you, and it's fairly straightforward. Recommendation is the council award the high efficiency boiler tender to Southwest Mechanical at an estimated cost of $58,755, excluding taxes. As you'll see, we had 7 bidders on this tender. It's to replace 2 commercial high efficiency boilers within our facility. The current units are nearing the end of their life expectancy, and one of the units currently requires $10,000 worth of repairs. That's the reason this got added to the MEEP funding list and was put out to tender. Again, 7 bids in front of you. This was reviewed by the facilities manager, and his criteria is listed there as well. Again, pretty straightforward, well within the $25,000 or $75,000 allocated through the MEEP funding for this project. So we have, there's nothing to cause us to think that we're going to come anywhere near that in any additional costs or expenses as we get into it. The tender does include the removal of the current boilers, as well as the purchase and installation of the new boilers, all electrical and all plumbing required to do the work. So it's completely packaged in this tender. If there's any questions, I'm more than happy to answer.
Okay, questions, council? I can't.
Larry.
Councilor Jorgensen. Okay.
I'm just curious, do we have a breakdown of how much the old boiler costs to operate and how much we expect to save with the new one?
Not what we got some price quotes from the company that had done the review of the current and given us some repair estimates and things like that. I don't unfortunately have that in front of me. It's not a huge difference. It's the difference of we're going from about 80% efficiency to about 95%. So we'll see about a 15% efficiency in our overall expenses.
It's natural gas, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Any other questions?
And is that combined heat and power unit completely decommissioned now, or is it still there?
It's
not
there,
operating.
but it's not operational right now. So we're still reviewing that and trying to figure out the long-term plan for that.
Okay, Councilor Nordic, do I see your hand up?
Yeah, is the old system simply scrap?
Yeah, the old system will just be completely scrapped. Yeah.
Okay. Any further questions? Okay, so Sask West, I'm assuming because they were on our list of people that we've done business with in 2019, were they the ones that did the air exchange in the pool, or what were they?
Yes, correct. Yeah, they did. They had the contract for the air handling unit within the aquatic center. Correct. Yes. Okay.
And were you? I know we did have some startup issues there, and you were happy with everything the way it was resolved.
Yes, yeah. So we were very happy with working with the company. The issues we had were more on the computer electronic side of things, and we've resolved, I think, all of those issues at this point. Now that we're back up and running, I'm sure we'll still have to deal with a few little things here and there, I'm sure. But yeah, as far as the company, we're very happy with theirs, and the references for other businesses that Lawrence looked into were good as well. So we're confident in that side of things. Yeah.
Okay. And my second question is, this is under budget by $15,000 approximately. That was through the MEAP funding. That money then just, what happens with that? That just goes into a pool for other projects that we may have applied for, or how does that work?
Mr. Mayor, yeah, we haven't really determined exactly what we would do with the overages and underages with the MEAP approved projects, but that was my sense, is that we would get a few projects in and see where we're at. If there's an opportunity to expand or contract, we did basically leave the 16th Street project as a bit of that whatever overage or underage it would receive, it would be the one affected. But we already know, I think the turning lane off of Highway 5 is a little over budget already, so we know there's going to be a little bit of some over, some under.
Okay, so I guess the important point is we don't lose that money then.
No, I'm not exactly certain at the point that we have to go back to the province and do the reporting and ask for reallocations. But no, we wouldn't lose it, because again, the 16th Street project can absorb everything that we may have savings on from other projects.
Okay. That was probably a good idea to put that one on there as sort of an open-ended catch-all, I guess. So, okay. So we have any further questions? If not, I'll look for a motion to proceed with the tender awarding. Councillor Wyland, are you making a motion, or you have a question?
Yes, making the motion.
Okay, so we have a motion and a seconder by Councillor Jorgensen. Any last further questions on this one? Okay, seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anything further we need to discuss at this point? If not, I'll look for a motion to adjourn. Okay, Councillor Jorgensen. Seconder. Councillor Hoffner, all in favor? That is carried. We are adjourned.